what I was going to say is that one of the things that happened in this game is that Miami was playing zonal marking, right? And they were really, really lucky. Twice, they had the exact same thing that we've been talking about on the podcast where they didn't quite win the first ball, and the second ball, the guy's wide open, and, we were pretty terrible not to convert. But my point being that for those of you out there saying, Dave's just riding Pineda hard, and this is what this is the, classic way to do it. I think it's shambolic when anybody's doing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
So do you want to go to the goal that we let in here against Miami towards the, what? This is
one thing I want to talk about is, again, this is the second consecutive match, the Miami match, where we did this unbalanced craziness. And those of you who are our big podcast listeners will remember we talked about this in the De Boer era, right? This crazy unbalanced thing where you ask one of your outside backs to get forward, and then when they're caught out, you ask a center midfielder to come in and cover for them. There was one game under De Boer where in the first 30 minutes it was Philadelphia, right? Because it was Bedoya, who was just like, wait a second, I'm 34 years old and there's nobody out here, and he's a good player. I mean, he's just a little lost a step, right? But he was like, I don't need a step when there's nobody out here, and he was torching us. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that game.
I do remember the one.
And De Boer actually switched it up after 35 minutes. The only time he admitted maybe not. But in any case, Pineda doing the same thing. Right, so Brooks Lennon is unbalanced. So we're not playing with a right midfielder. Like technically, when Araujo came on in the second game, he played right midfield, but even then he's cutting in. But in the Miami game, we literally weren't playing with a right midfielder. So Brooks Lennon is playing right midfield. He's also playing right back. When he's playing right midfield, there's nobody playing right back. So then Gutman was staying back a little bit more, but it was unbalanced. And you know who he was asking to cover? Sejdic.
Yikes.
Sejdic was being asked to cover from center midfielder out wide. And what happens on the goal, everybody is going to blame George Campbell because George Campbell wins the ball. He tries to play a split the line pass and he just gives it away terribly. And we've talked about this. He's young. He has that habit, which is not good. But once he gives away the ball, if you'll notice on the play, the thing that I wanted to point out is, so obviously somebody going to give away the ball occasionally, even in a bad spot. Anytime you give away the ball in a bad spot, you can't just be like, oh, that's a goal, right? You got to have some backup plan. You got to have plan B, right? Yeah. And our plan B is Sejdic covering from. And if you watch on the play, Sejdic has no chance to cover for Brooks Lennon, who's way up the field.
Now, I saw a little differently in terms of Sejdic or where fault lied towards the end of this, and I'm going to put it on, of course, George Campbell, and Sosa was back there too.
Well, so what's interesting is I think it was Miles Robinson who was back there. Maybe Sosa's back too. But Miles Robinson, the reason why Miles Robinson doesn't make this play on this goal is because Sejdic is not back. If you watch off the corner, and I'm not sure whether we can see it on the highlights, but he comes over anticipating that they're going to play to Lennon's position where Sejdic is trying to cover. And then he tries to get all the way back into the middle. And it's too much, even for Miles Robinson.
There's one thing you'll notice in this play. George Campbell, when he gets back, he doesn't turn his hips and look back up the field. He got back in time.
Yeah, he was back.
And then he had his back to the ball. He wasn't even looking at the defender. He didn't swivel his hips and look back up the field.
But watch how the defender
Then he
gets
wouldn't
pulled.
have had that awkward little back heel off him. If he was facing up the field and he would have seen the defender, miss that. And then Sosa just completely decides not to mark a guy at all. He just decides he's not marking anybody and lets that guy go just drift off to the back post.
Let's play the clip.
Yeah, let's play the clip.
Now that we're arguing about what happened. Yeah. Here we go. So that's after just giving away the ball.
Sosa's tracking his guy right up the middle and then just lets him stops the signing and stops.
So, but it's George Campbell. So actually, you're pointing out, you and I actually noticed the same thing, but I think you got it wrong, which is to say it's George Campbell who comes over to try to cover after he makes the bad play. And then he gets turned around like that, not because he was just bad, whatever. It's because he was running one way and trying to come back the other way.
Yeah, but look. Okay.
So watch George Campbell.
He goes in the middle, but he doesn't even need to. Sosa's there. And then he should have been back and his hips turned, marking his man.
But he was all the way out there as opposed to being in the middle where he wouldn't have to make that run because you couldn't see it on this play because he was coming out to cover for Sejdic.
No one needed cover because
he needed to because if he doesn't come out there.
Dude, Sosa was back. Sosa was back. He had his guy and just let him go. And then he saw George Campbell next to him and then let his guy go.
Go play it again.
This is it right here.
Yeah.
This is it.
See, watch him come running over to the middle.
Yeah, Sosa's got his guy there. And then just lets him go. That's totally his fault.
But the reason why
you can't let your guy go like that. He's the one who was wide open on the back post. Cannot let your guy
go back a second because I want you to show where the players start, right? So George Campbell, go back a little bit more. Oh, I think they'll play it again from their reverse angle. So I like it because in the wide angle on the second view, you can see much better, right?
Yeah.
So Campbell has just given up the ball, right?
Yeah. Campbell makes a poor square pass across the field.
Campbell wins the ball. He makes a terrible ball. And then he sprints to the middle because he thinks there's a problem.
They're not. He's marked up right there by a man. And then Sosa lets his guy go for some God unknown reason.
Right, but the problem is Campbell is coming to get back to where his center back because he wants to be that second guy.
Yeah, but he confused Sosa because
Sosa didn't want to know to mark it. But the reason why he had to be out there is because there's no right back in that play. There's no right back in that play.
But
why isn't Campbell sitting in the middle where he can help him? Whatever. Where's the right back?
In any league, that there was a guy that was coming down the field. He was marked by a man. Just stay on him.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that, and I agree with you, that he should have stayed with him at that point. But if he stays with them, then he's leaving Robinson completely one-on-one, right, as opposed to being the second guy to help, right?
Well, it was going to be one of those situations anyway where you're going to have to defend.
So pause it right now. Pause it right now. So right now, right, so Campbell...
Everybody has a guy.
Yes. Campbell's giving the ball away. But so Campbell is used to being a center back. He's used to coming over there to be the second guy. So if Miles Robinson gets beat, it's not a breakaway, right? So he's trying to bust it to get back over there.
Miles Robinson, one of the best one-on-one defenders. Why are you worried? No one's worried. No one should be worried right now.
He's making a bad decision. But the reason why he's normally coming over there to help, and normally he has the right back who's going to be out there. And that's why he's abandoning that spot, because that's what he's used to doing. And there's no right. Where's the right back in that clip right now?
It doesn't matter.
I agree with you. He makes a terrible decision. But it's the unbalanced system that forces him to make that decision.
That's not a system fault. That's just bad decision making.
I disagree.
All around. You can't blame that on the coach. There's 3 players. They're all marked, and they let it go to hell in a handbasket. Even after a bad square pass.
I don't disagree that Campbell makes a terrible decision here. He should have stayed with that guy, right?
Yeah. Well, this is what he does. I think because Sosa's watching the guy with the ball, when he comes in, he sees Campbell and thinks he's going to pick up the guy and be the center back. And instead, he leaves his guy wide open.
He leaves his guy because Campbell's coming over. And normally he would be leaving his guy because Campbell would be in the middle. Yeah. Campbell's supposed to be in the middle helping out as a second guy. And there's supposed to be a right back.
Just mark your guy.
But there's no right back.
You don't need him right back. There's Campbell. Campbell is the right back right now.
Yeah. But if he stays out wide there, now Sosa has to be able to, with speed, to stay with that guy making the run in the middle. And I think Campbell's thinking that he has to cover for him because Sosa can't stay with that guy speed-wise. That's not his strength.
Bollocks. No. That's not how the game should have unfolded in that moment.
Fair, but you're creating problems that don't need to be there. If you have the extra guy who's there, that never happens.
Yeah. So I hear what you're saying in terms of never put yourself in that situation, but we did, and those guys are good enough.
We should have been able to get out of it. That's your point, and exactly. I agree with you. We should have been able to get out of it. He made a bad pass, and then combined it with a bad decision after he made the bad pass. But why is he having to make that decision? Is because there's nobody there.